Depending on when you're watching this, we are only a couple days from the draft. And so today I am releasing my last mock draft for the 2024 NFL draft. And as you read from the title, or as you saw in the thumbnail, this is a 33 pick predictive with trades mock draft. So I'm going until the Panthers' first pick of the second round, and I'm genuinely giving my best shot here at what I think will happen. If you want to know kind of more like my projections, boards, or whatever, I released a 7 round mock draft. That was my last video. So for every team, kind of what I would do with my own boards and stuff. But today, like I said, this is genuinely just my best guess. I'm not going to get this right. I probably won't even get half this right, but I'm going to try. So let's hop into it for our last mock draft of the year. Well, for this cycle at least, probably have a mock draft out soon of a too early 25 mock draft. But firstly, with the number one pick, the Chicago Bears are selecting No, it's Caleb Williams. We all know it's Caleb Williams. I would bet everything I own that it's going to be Caleb Williams. Whether you look at the system that they've built in Chicago, or the fact that they need a quarterback very desperately, or the fact that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in this class, it's Caleb Williams. So, that's about all there is to it. As a Bears fan, you should be really excited to get this guy, just because he's someone that is not on the level of like Andrew Luck, John Elway, those type of guys. But I would actually say he's on the level of Trevor Lawrence, where I don't know if he's going to be this like all-time generational quarterback or anything, but he is really talented just across the board. He makes incredible throws. He has this incredible ability to extend plays. He senses pressure just in a very unique way, where like it almost seems sometimes like he's not reading the field, or like he's not sensing the pocket, and then he'll still find his way out of some collapsing pocket and make some downfield throw. It's just he does it, and if the biggest critique you can come up with is that he plays hero ball too much of the time, and you won't even bring up the fact that it works most of the time, I mean, he's a pretty good prospect. With the number 2 pick, the Washington Commanders will go Jaden Daniels. I really do feel Drake May would be the right pick here. He is pretty far above Jaden Daniels for me. But I do really feel confident, with only a few days left before the draft when I'm recording this, that they're going to go Jaden Daniels. And, I think for Washington, they probably view him as a bit better of a scheme fit for Cliff Kingsbury than Drake May. But even then, I don't really feel like if that's all that true, because I don't think May is a bad fit by any means. If they want to go through the perspective of Daniels is probably a bit more of like I think he can probably run an offense a bit safer than a guy like Drake May, and he's just a lot more mechanically sound. He does have some really nice throws on film, right? It's not like this is a bad prospect, but for me, I really feel like it should be Drake May. Regarding Jaden Daniels himself, he is a good fit with Cliff Kingsbury. He is a mobile quarterback that can also launch it downfield. He just had a lot of help at LSU, and so I really think you've got to just. I feel like it might benefit him to sit for a little bit, even just to truly learn the playbook enough, and not put him behind that offensive line, which was so horrible last year. At number 3, the Patriots. This is where the draft starts for me, because I really feel good about those first 2 picks. And then the reason I'm kind of iffy on 3 is, while everyone's going with Drake May there, I think there's a genuine chance that they could go Marvin Harrison Jr., but as of 3 days before the draft, that's not the way I'm going to go, and I am going to say it's Drake May here, because even while the fact that their offense is not ready for a young quarterback, like in the slightest, any quarterback, like even if Caleb Williams was going to New England, like you'd still be scared, because that's not a good offense that Drake May will be going to. So, do you maybe even sit him for a year? I don't think it's out of the question. But as far as the prospect of Drake May, he's really good. And like I said, I think he should go number 2. I think this is already kind of a sort of steal for New England at 3, because they really shouldn't even have an opportunity to get Drake May. In any other class, he would be the number one pick, and I feel really good about that. Which is still why I keep harping on the fact that I don't think Daniel should be the number two pick. But in any other class, Drake May would be the number one pick, because while he does have some iffy mechanics, while he does have some off throws, that does not take away from the fact that this dude is the best dual threat quarterback in the class. He might not have the strongest arm in the class, but he definitely has a good one. He's just one of those guys where, like, I just think he needs, a year or two to really get some proper NFL coaching. He had a lot of his talent taken away from him this last year he was at UNC. So Drake May, I think it will be a very good pick for the Patriots, and I do think that is their quarterback of the future. With the fourth pick, I have the Cardinals going Marvin Harrison Jr. I know a lot of people are talking, Vikings are going to trade up, number 4. I can't see 4 quarterbacks going with the first 4 picks. Like, that was crazy enough in 21 when 3 quarterbacks went with the first 3 picks. I don't see 4 in the first 4. I just, and the Cardinals here, who so desperately need receiver, and I know they did it last year where they traded down and then traded right back up, but I don't know if they do that 2 years in a row. When you've got this, quite literally generational player available to you at arguably your weakest position, when you've just made a message of how you're sticking by your quarterback and he's your guy, and you're giving him currently, his top receivers are Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. It's got to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe they go with Neighbors, but I'm feeling Harrison is a bit more likely at this point in time. But really, they're both great prospects. Harrison, just this large body that has just an incredible range and can really come down with just about any pass. I went to 3 words there before I got to pass. There's just not much more to it. You shouldn't overthink this if you're Arizona. It's your weakest position, and you've got maybe the best prospect ever at that position for you at number 4. So I don't think you trade down here. Where a trade down does occur is number 5, where the Vikings are going to hop up here to grab their quarterback of the future in J.J. McCarthy. Now, for trade terms, and if you hear the paper, it's because I've got this written down on paper, but I have the Vikings trading the 11th and 23rd picks, nothing else, just those 2 first, for the 5th pick. I like to go off of Jimmy Johnson's trade value chart pick thing. I'm getting the actual word for it. 11 and 23 is already more than enough for the 5th pick. So I know people always throw in like a second next year or whatever, but I think that'd be enough to do it. And then get JJ McCarthy. From the Chargers' point of view, you're trading back for 2 firsts, which is just a thing that some new coaches like to do. I think Harbaugh, who might love a guy like Malik. I don't even know if he would love a guy. I'm sure he would love to have a guy of the talent of Malik Neighbors, but really, if you have an opportunity here to trade down, you have 2 first-round picks now to kind of better, address your needs and stuff. When you do kind of have, some big needs at receiver, at corner, at tackle, I just think it sets yourself up better in a class that's deep with tackles and corners and not corners so much, but and receivers. And even then, corners are not the biggest need; it's mainly slot for them, which I think like a guy like Mike Sainer still makes a ton of sense for the Chargers in round 2. But regarding this, like I said, you're trading down here, getting some additional picks. You could just take Neighbors, but instead you're going to have the Vikings come up here and grab their quarterback of the future in J.J. McCarthy, who I do not hate near as much as everybody else. In fact, I'd actually say I like him because I really do think he's a quarterback that truly has the ability to just run an offense at an efficient level. And for a Kevin O'Connell offense, I think that's just about what you need. When you have some very talented receivers right now with Hawkinson, Jefferson, Addison, you've got a really solid offensive line. Brian Flores did a great job with that defense last year. And, it's almost like people forget that, like, I feel like when I see people online talking about McCarthy, it's either, he runs the offense efficiently, or, he's just this athletic, high upside guy. I see both. I guess that's where I differ, because at the same time, while I see this guy who can efficiently run an offense, I also see someone who's got some pretty solid upside there, and I do believe in him. And he's my quarterback three. I have him above Jaden Daniels, so I feel pretty good actually that he's going to be a franchise signal caller for a team. He's not going to be an elite quarterback, and if he ever is, it's going to take him at least 3 or 4 years to get there, because he's a developmental guy still, because that ceiling is still there. But I don't think he's someone that necessarily even needs to sit. I just think you need to let him get some experience throwing the ball, and I like him here for Minnesota, so worth the trade up in my opinion. And then at 6, the Giants are jumping with joy because Malik Neighbors is a very damn good prospect to get with the 6th pick in the draft. I mean, this is a guy that's a receiver one in any other class, and was even receiver one in this class for a little bit for me. You're glad that 4 quarterbacks went before, because you're getting plain and simply an elite receiving weapon for Daniel Jones, who is not he's a speed threat for sure, right? He's not like a true burner, but he will beat you downfield. And while his route tree is nowhere near as accomplished as like Harrison, he brings so much to the table that he is an athletic guy. Again, he can take the top off a defense. I don't think he's a bad route runner. He does have nice hands. He has nice range for his size. So like I said, I mean, this is such a great pick to get with the 6th pick, because again, like a lot of the time, this is a guy that is probably a top 5-ish pick in any other class. So this is a good one for New York. Tennessee. This is another one of those pencil-ins where if he's there, that's the pick. It's Joe Alt. He's my number 1 player in the class. And I feel really, really good in saying that I do genuinely believe, barring injuries, he will wear a gold jacket someday. And there's very few prospects that you can say that about. I don't even know if I've ever said that about a prospect before. But that's how confident I am in Joe Alt. So to get him, kind of like what I said with the Giants, right? To get him at the 7th pick, it's just you've got these other great receiving prospects. You've got these quarterback prospects. It allows Tennessee to address a huge need in possibly the best way you could, because like I said, he's a really good prospect. Not an elite run game guy, but as far as pass protection goes, it's about as good as it gets out of your college. So I think it's a good pick here for Tennessee. Number 8, the Falcons. Everybody mocks edge rusher here. Everybody says it's Dallas Turner, maybe Latu. I'm gonna mix it up, and you got to remember that for sure, there's a lot of picks in here that's like, I don't know if I would do all this, right? I wouldn't go Daniels at number 2. Would I take corner at 8 if I'm Atlanta? Maybe. But that's where I'm going, because Quinion Mitchell, I think, is going to go a bit higher than people might even project, because he really is that good of a prospect. I feel like we've had so much focus on Dallas Turner to the Falcons and how much everyone loves that we've forgotten in a way that like Atlanta's defensive back room was good last year, because AJ Terrell is a solid corner and Jesse Bates was arguably the best safety in football. It was good, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the room outside of those two guys was very thin, and they might have signed a couple like Kevin King and someone else I can't even remember, but like Quinion Mitchell gives you a really, really freaking good duo with AJ Terrell and him for the foreseeable future. And even if maybe Terrell's going to leave soon, this is kind of your replacement for that, because it's nice to have that premier corner, but on a more of a rookie type deal, because not every team likes to pay corners. So when you're the Falcons here, where you're bringing over Raheem Morris, you're going to go try and compete right now. I just think you're looking for guys that are going to help you win right now, right? If you're going to go Dallas Turner, it's almost a little weird to me, because your window right now is 2, maybe 3 years max. Turner is a very high upside pass rusher, but I don't think he's going to bank on that like year 1 or anything. I think it makes a lot more sense for Atlanta to go take a corner who could make a year 1 impact, and like I said, is a really good prospect. I mean, he's not my number 1 defensive player in the class, but he's at least top 5, I'm pretty sure, if not top 3. So, like I said, like I'm not saying this is what I would do, but I'm just trying to predict because there's surprises, there's twists, there's whatever. Um, at number 9, I have another trade. Here's our second trade of the video. I have the Bears trading back because they desperately need capital because they have 4 picks right now, even though 2 of them are in the top 10. But they have 4 picks, so they're going to trade back 6 spots with the Indianapolis Colts, who jump up for, oh my God, Brock Bowers, because Brock Bowers is a really, really, really good fit in Shane Steichen's offense. It's about as much of a dream fit as dream fits can be. So, I mean, maybe you'd opt for Rome Odunze since he's still on the board, but with the Chargers coming up, with the Jets coming up, with the Broncos coming up, potentially. Yeah, I mean, those are the teams that are threatening you for the Colts, who are really looking for like what's going to just give Anthony Richardson the best chances to succeed, right? Michael Pittman was really good last year. Josh Downs had a really nice rookie season, but like, do we have that consistent down to down, like that threat for our rookie quarterback? I don't. I'd argue maybe not, and that's where Brock Bowers comes in as this kind of more, he's going to be open nearly every down. I mean, that's how good he is, right? Like, we've got so many of those guys in these classes where it's like, we're talking about these quarterbacks at the top and these receivers and whatever, but like, it's almost like we're ignoring the fact that we have a really good interior defensive guy. We have a really good corner. We have a really good tight end in this class. And these guys are going to kind of fall down the board a little bit because of all these other quarterbacks and everything. So you're getting a guy like Brock Bowers where, I really do think he is on the level of a guy like Kyle Pitts, who went 4th overall, right? If not for being so deep in all these other positions, Brock Bowers would go higher than 9. I think Arthur Smith has done a lot of damage to the idea that drafting a tight end high can be worth it. And let's not get it confused. He's not just a tight end. Like, he's not a traditional, like, I guess I don't know how to put it. Like, he's not a traditional tight end. He's a big slot where truly he brings so much more value to an offense than just, blocking and shallow routes. Like, this guy's a legit receiver with a big body. And so, for the Colts here, it's a perfect fit. And so they trade up here, which leaves the Jets happy because they're able to get Rome Odunze at number 10. And I'm finally saying his name right. And once again, like, honestly, in a lot of classes, this guy is number 1. He would have been number 1 last year. Yeah, he would have been number 1 last year. He would have been number 1 in 2022. The only guy in recent memory I'd say was better prospect than him is probably Jamar Chase. And besides these guys, like, it's a really good receiver class this year. So for the Jets to get Odunze at 10, they're very happy with that. You've now given Rodgers, assuming he stays healthy, a really nice receiving core, because it was just Garrett Wilson. You've brought over Mike Williams. You've drafted Odunze. You addressed the offensive line some. I know people might want to still just go offensive line here, but you're giving Aaron Rodgers just a filled out offense of guys to throw to, and he's a big guy, right? He's truly like a jump ball. Like, he's not Mike Williams, right? But he's similar to Mike Williams in some ways, and so he's a better Mike Williams in my opinion. So I think this would be a great pick for the Jets here, who are really going all in this year for Rodgers and their team. At number 11, the Chargers traded back from 5, obviously, and they are going to take Talise Fuanga from Oregon State, who I'm not the hugest fan of, but I think he really, really fits a Harbaugh offense. And, I really liked trading back here for the Chargers because I think there were a few guys in specific that just made a lot of sense for Jim Harbaugh's offense, and Talise Fuanga is one of them. You get, your pick of the crop at the tackles here at number 11, and maybe they could go like J.C. Latham or something, but I think Fuanga, who really excels more in the run game than he does in the pass game, and also the fact that he has that guard tackle versatility, I almost kind of like the idea of, if you want to move Sawyer back out to tackle and then just have Fuanga play guard. Like, I know maybe you don't want to take a guard with the 11th pick, but it's just about, addressing the offensive line and, creating a better run game for yourself. You got Gus Edwards, you brought over J.K. Dobbins. You don't have any receiving weapons. So I know people are just going to say, well, we'll take a receiver. I think it's pretty clear that they're trying to build this offense through the ground game. And so Fuanga just makes a lot of sense for me. At number 12, the Broncos, Bo Nix very well could be the pick here. I think if they're going to go Bo Nix, it's way more likely that they trade back and then take him. But with the trade for Zach Wilson, I think that's kind of sending a message that, they're probably going to roll with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham next year. So it's best player available. And who's the best player available? It's Dallas Turner, who, as I said earlier, is this just hyper, high upside, pretty athletic player who's got, despite the fact that I would call him slightly developmental, that he will take a year or two to really get there, he could still make a year one impact as a 4 or 5 sack player. This is a guy that, for Denver, who's going to be rebuilding, right? Next year is very much a rebuild year. You're really just giving Turner a year of development, and after that you have hopefully your alpha edge rusher, because Denver has all these really nice complementary pieces, right? Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, really good as complementary, rotational pass rushers. And then Browning is solid, but he just has so much issues. He has so many issues with health and everything. With Turner here, you're really hoping to get your true, like I said, alpha number one pass rusher. Bradley Chubb just never ended up replacing Vaughn the way that you wanted him to. And so, yeah, this is your attempt at getting your next Von Miller for the rebuild, whoever your quarterback is. 13, the Raiders are going to go J.C. Latham. I really like the fit here. I think he at least works with the Raiders and their offense, and that he fills that need at right tackle. But again, similar to Fuanga, I'm not the hugest fan of him. It's more the fact that he's, he doesn't have the elite traits of a tackle, and that's just my opinion. But because there's certain people who love him, but I just quite don't see the elite traits that would make you think that he's going to be anything better than a serviceable tackle. And that's why I almost kind of wonder, do you just want to move him to guard? Because I think his size and his traits actually fit well more to guard than it does tackle. And so, but like I said, for the Raiders here, he fills their need. It feels kind of just like a Raiders pick. I'm not saying he's going to be bad or anything, because a lot of Raiders picks, when I say that, I don't just mean he's going to be another Raiders pick, but it feels like a Raiders pick to me. Here for at 13. At 14, we have another trade, as the Rams are going to hop up. A couple tackles have gone now since Alt, and I think they want a tackle to replace Alaric Jackson at the left tackle position, and that's going to be Troy Fautno, who a lot of people view as a guard. I don't. I think he's a tackle. I know the arm length and all that, but I think just over the years I've really stopped caring, I guess, all that much. It's not to say that arm length doesn't matter, but the idea that if you have short arms you can't play tackle, it's just not true. We have had a few guys now just completely prove that. And Fautno is really one of the better players of the class, in my opinion. I really do think people are kind of almost underrating that this could be a guy we look back on and why did guys like Fuanga and Latham go over him, right? I really like Fautno here. I think LA would too. He fits really well with McVay's blocking scheme, and I think, obviously people talk about his versatility for an offensive line that, at times has some injury issues. They've had some questions at center, and he can switch over to right tackle and whatever. You get this nice versatile piece to your O-line. You move up. I just realized I forgot to say the trades for those. For the Colts trade, it was the 9th pick for the 15th, 82nd, and a 2025 third. And for this Rams-Saints trade, it's the 14th. And then the Rams also get 168 and 170. And in turn, they send the Saints 19 and 52. And so, anyways, they trade up here for Fontenot, who fits them really nicely. The Bears are at 15 because they traded back with the Colts, like I said earlier, and they're going to take Byron Murphy II, who hopefully will kind of fill up that hole they have in the middle of their defense. I think he fits Eberflus's system really well. Run block or run defending was a big thing for Chicago last year. That's not what he is, right? He's not going to be that, interior guy that eats up the run game or anything. This is definitely like a pass production's his bigger strong suit, in my opinion. Like he's definitely much more of a, I hate to say it, I keep saying it in a lot of videos, but there's Aaron Donald vibes from him. I just do. He's got a similar size. He uses his strength because he's a strong guy. He uses his strength and leverage from being kind of a shorter guy from most interior players to his advantage, and it really helps him more so getting to the quarterback. But again, it's not like he's a slouch in the run game. So Byron Murphy is my number one defensive player in the class. I think he's probably going to go later than he should, even here at 15. So I think this would be a great pick, and the Bears are almost trying to kind of emulate what Houston did, getting that quarterback and then that defensive player to hopefully lead your defense and whatever. But Murphy's really good here for Chicago. Seattle at 16. This might be a little too early for people, but I've just seen people say that he's not gonna go past here. I think Seattle probably knows that if you just kind of look at it, unless they trade back one or two picks, you've got several teams in the early 20s, which is more generally the place for interior linemen. That would take Jackson Powers Johnson in a heartbeat. So for Seattle here, who one of their biggest needs this offseason has been interior offensive line, for a guy who is a guard or a center, whichever you prefer, I say he's better at center. For a guy who is probably the best interior prospect I've scouted. I was a huge Tyler Linderbaum fan, and I'd have Powers Johnson above him personally. I do think he's that level of a center prospect, which I know center's not the sexiest pick for a lot of people, but again, for a team who needs interior, he's from the North Pacific. I don't know, I just really like him here. He's really good in just moving. He moves guys, and he himself can just, if you pull him, which, having him block for Kenny Walker out in the zone and everything, I think it's just a perfect fit, and it's exactly what Seattle could need to get their run game going a bit more. And I honestly couldn't tell you right now exactly how good the run game was, but however good or bad it was, it'll do better with a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson under center. Or I guess at center. At 17, the second half of the mock draft now, we got the Jaguars, and I know a popular pick here is corner. A lot of people go Terrion Arnold here. I really like Brian Thomas Jr. here, and I think that's probably where they go because they do still need that Calvin Ridley alpha type receiver. Christian Kirk was pretty good last year. They signed Gabe Davis, but it's Gabe Davis, it's not going to fix your offense or anything. It's not he's going to all of a sudden give Trevor Lawrence what he needs. Brian Thomas Jr., who falls here simply just because of how talented this receiving class is a really good pickup at 17. This downfield jump ball threat. And at first I wasn't the hugest fan of him because I at first I was kind of well, what else does he have? He wasn't the best route runner and stuff. But you watch more of his game, and he's just got really secure hands. He's not a bad route runner. I just think he's got work to do there. But like I said, really nice hands. He uses his range very well, which just I think the first game I watched, he didn't, and that's why I kind of just said oh, this guy doesn't even reach for it that well, but he does. And that obviously pairs well with that jump ball mentality. But this is also a guy that if you give him if you give him enough room to operate around you at the catch point, he's 9 times out of 10 going to come down with it. If not 9.5 times out of 10. So, for the Jaguars here who still need kind of that alpha receiving threat for Trevor Lawrence, I think this is your guy. And then at 18, the Bengals take who a lot of people have like Jacksonville going with in Terrion Arnold. They kind of do need a corner. You know, Chidobe Awuzie, I think he went to Tennessee, I want to say, but I'm pretty sure he left. And then they retained Mike Hilton. I'm pretty sure. Like I've been trying to keep track with all the movements and everything so much. But either way, like they need corner, right? And I know for a fact they lost to Uzier. So that alone, you know, I know they drafted DJ Turner. I like Cam Taylor Britt, but even then you need two starting corners. I really like Arnold here for Lou Anarumo's defense. He's just kind of this like he's this jack of all trades. I don't think there's anything he's particularly bad at, but there's also not a lot I would like point out as like an elite trait of his. I feel really good in saying that he will be like a top 30-ish minimum corner for the next, however many years. And I think that's worth, this pick here where I'm not high enough on him for like a 15 pick. I don't think he's going to be like an elite corner or anything. But again, like as a guy who's going to be like, on most teams, he's a solid number one. On some teams, he's a really good number two. Here in Cincinnati, you're getting your number one corner here, in my opinion. So I think that's worth the pick. At 19, the Saints, who traded down with the Rams earlier, are going to get Jared Verse. I really love this fit here, and I think New Orleans would too. This is a Saints pass rusher, your replacement for Cam Jordan, who's getting older. They've tried to find their replacement. Marcus Davenport didn't work out. Peyton Turner didn't work out. A few other guys that they've tried, kind of to get someone besides Cam Jordan. Well, now you have to get someone to replace Cam Jordan, and I think Jared Verse is a good pick here because he's another one of those guys similar to what I just said about Arnold, where I don't see like a super high upside pass rusher in him. I don't think this is ever going to be a guy that's like the TJ Watts, Nick Bosa's. Some people really like him. I'm not saying that that's what they're saying about him, but like he's never going to be anything like that. This is a solid 2-3 down pass rusher that I don't like to call guys one trick ponies, but like he's about as close as they get, in my opinion, where he is a powerful human. He's a big, strong guy that is really freaking good at bull rushing. If you ask him to do much else outside of that, I don't know if he's all that special. I think if he didn't have his bull rush, if he wasn't as good at that as he is, I think he's a 3rd, 4th round player. And I know what I'm saying is very unpopular, but this is just my personal take on him, But some team's going to love him. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes higher. I wouldn't be surprised if the Saints just say, no, we just rather take him here at 14. But I feel really like this is one of those ones where like I really think Jared Verse will end up being a New Orleans Saint. If not, he's probably a Bear. But like it's just one of those kind of dreams, right? Like it's got to happen. And then at 20, the Steelers are going to take Graham Barton from Duke, who I'd say the most versatile lineman in the class. Like it's him or Fontenot. But Graham Barton really, because even Fontenot, like you're playing him at tackle guard, you're not really thinking about center as much, although he probably could. Barton has played guard, tackle, center, and he's played very well at all three of them. And I'd say he plays better the more inside he goes, where he is a really good tackle. I think he's a very good guard, and maybe he's even best at center. So for the Steelers here, who, even though they went first round last year, you still do have to address the unit because you don't know what you're doing, unless they sign someone, you don't know what you're doing at center. And they kind of need tackle because Dan Moore's their starting left tackle right now. So whether you want to play him at center, whether you want to play him at tackle, for whatever reason, if you needed to, you can play him at guard. Barton's a really nice pickup here. He also kind of fits that Steelers, like what they like in tackle or linemen in general, right? They love their big, beefy, like just big humans, and Graham Barton is a big human. At 21, we have our last trade of the first round here, with the Cardinals hopping up from 27 to 21, and that trade being, I won't forget to say it this time, being the Cardinals get 21 and send Miami 27 and 90. And they hop up here to 21 for Chop Robinson, who is another guy that's going to go really high in this draft and probably higher than 21. Another guy where I'm not as huge of a fan on him. There's a lot of those in this one where, like, I just not big fans of him, not big enough fan to take him here. But from the team's perspective, this is a really high upside pass rusher. I mean, for sure, there's no doubting that. Like, when you have these just hyper athletic pass rushers, they're naturally very intriguing, because if you can get these guys to master the art of pass rushing, right, which is a complicated art, but when you know how to pass rush, if you can pair that with these athletic tools and traits that a lot of guys have, but like not everyone is the athlete that Chop Robinson is. So for the Cardinals here and Jonathan Gannon's defense, I think it's a perfect fit. And if you're asking my opinion, I do think he's just an athlete. I don't know if this is a guy that's going to succeed in the NFL. But for NFL teams who, again, some teams like taking swings at those guys, like, well, if he does work out, then the Cardinals are getting a really good pass rusher here at 21. But like I said, I think he's just an athlete personally. And then at 22, I think the Eagles, like, they're probably going to move on draft night, but I was just looking at it and, like, number one, I don't see... Well, I guess number one, Cooper DeJean is a perfect fit here. But number two, I don't see a place for them to really move down and still get Cooper DeJean, because I think you're kind of scared of both the Chargers and Packers and potentially even the Buccaneers all taking him. So then, where do you trade down? Like, 2 picks to Dallas? Like, I don't know if Dallas wants to trade up. So I think just stick here, with Cooper DeJean, who is, I've started just listing him as defensive back because, if you ask, depends on who you ask. Some people say he's a corner, some people say he's a nickel, some people say he's a safety. Fancy people like me just call him defensive back because I think he can play all three. I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't, to be honest. Like, he's this hyper athlete, and I know everybody loves to make jokes about how, like, oh, white corner, but, like, really, I mean, he's just a phenomenal athlete, right? That just plays the position, And so for the Eagles here, who need defensive backs, because, like, Reed Blankenship was solid last year. They brought over Gardner Johnson on kind of a bigger deal than I thought, but, like, it's still, we don't know if he's going to be great, and then you look at the corner room where they're just getting older. Like, Darius Slay is 33, 34, I want to say, and James Bradbury didn't have the best year last year. So you're kind of needing to address that defensive back room in general. So what better to draft a guy who's literally just about as versatile of a defensive back as they come. He might go higher than this, who knows, but I like him here for the Eagles at 22. Chargers, with their last pick of the first round, still from that Vikings trade, are going to go with Ladd McConkey. I thought about this pick for a while, and there was a few different selections you could go, right? Like, running back's not likely here, but, like, it could happen, I suppose. Like, Trey Benson could go in the first round. I wouldn't be mad at it. But they need edge rusher, right? They need corner, more specifically slot corner. Like, they've got some needs, but we never addressed receiver, and I think you have to in some degree, even if you could probably get one, second or third round. Like, I really like Ladd McConkey, and I think he kind of gives the offense what it needs if you're going to have one good receiver, I guess. And of course, there's no guarantee that any of these guys are good, but I feel pretty good that Ladd McConkey is, one of those receivers where he's not going to be an alpha by any means. Like, he's not going to be... I think he could be a number 2. Like, I don't think that's unrealistic, but I think his best fit, honestly, is, like, as a 3, like, more of that slot receiver where I always compare him to Deontay Johnson because he's such a complete route runner that even as the 3 in, like, an offense like, say, Cincinnati or whatever, I think that would be his best fit. Like, I don't know if Cincinnati's going to take him, but I think Cincinnati would be a great fit for him because if you allow him to be that natural three, where truly he's just a slot guy and it's just get open, right? He's going to get open nearly every play. If you give that to Herbert here, where, like how we discussed earlier, they're very much going offensive ground game. Um, he still needs, you can't run the ball every play. He still needs someone to throw to. And if you take a guy like McConkey, who, like I said earlier, like he finds himself open so many times during a game, I think it really works here with the Chargers, who are building their game, their offensive game through the ground. But if you can have that receiver who's like, preferably a 2 or a 3, but like, if you're gonna have a receiver room like this, you might as well add to it with a guy like him. At 24, I have the Cowboys going Tyler Guyton, who is like another one of those guys I just would not feel comfortable taking in the first round, but there's no denying that he is a big guy. And is he that athletic? I don't know, but considering that he's like 6'8", 330 something, I want to say, it's hard to be like a hyper athlete at that size. He's not that, but like he's athletic for the size. He feels like a Dallas pick to me, kind of like what I said about the Cowboys or the Raiders earlier. Like he feels like a Cowboys pick. They kind of took a guy similar, like Tyler Smith's not like the same prospect at all, but like they took a similar process with Tyler Smith, where like we knew he was this developmental lineman that was a tackle, but could probably switch into guard. I don't know if Guyton is a guard, right? Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to kind of let him play there for a year or anything. But Terrence Steele was pretty poor last year, and in the event that you do want to keep Smith inside at guard, maybe you try Steele at left tackle and then keep Smith at guard. But more than likely, right, you move Steele either as a backup tackle or you move him in the guard, and then let Guyton play the right tackle position. Like I said, he's a big guy. I don't know if he's going to ever turn into anything of much, but like the upside is definitely there, and it's worth taking in the first round, I guess, but it's just not something I would personally do. 25, the Packers are going to go with Patrick Paul from Houston, who is another guy, just one of these big tackles. I would say he's more athletic than Guyton. I think I like the fit of Guyton better with Dallas, but Paul here, fits that left tackle position for the Packers that they kind of need. Like Rasheed Walker was solid last year, but I almost kind of wonder if you want to move him or Zach Tom into guard. And then you've just got a really nice offensive line for Jordan Love there in Green Bay. Like, you have some good receiving weapons there. They have a solid tight end there. Like, they've established a really good offense around Jordan Love. And then this pick here with Patrick Paul, like, I know a lot of people want to go defensive back here, and I could see like a Kool-Aid McKinstry or something, but I really love Patrick Paul here. I think he's a great fit with the Packers offense. 26, I got the Buccaneers going Max Melton. This is a guy that will probably end up sneaking into the first round. He is a very athletic corner that, I think he's very similar to his brother in a lot of ways, who plays for the Packers, where, his brother plays receiver, he plays corner, obviously, but they're both kind of similar. I mean, they're athletic guys, but also have similar frames. I really like his play style at corner, actually. Like, it's a guy I didn't expect to like too much going into, because I'm not a big fan of like those lengthier corners or whatever, and he's got a bit of a skinnier frame to him, but he doesn't let that really stop him from being physical and getting in on the run game and stuff. So I liked that, and just as in general, I think he's a solid pickup for Tampa Bay and kind of fits that. He fits that Todd Bowles defense really well. So I like him I like him here for Tampa Bay. At 27, the Dolphins, who traded down with the Cardinals earlier, are going to take Jerzon Newton from Illinois, who is similar to what I said about Murphy. Like, his bread and butter is definitely in the pass rush more than it is in the ground game. I wouldn't say he's a slouch in the ground game, but like he's just definitely way more productive as a pass rusher. I really like that he does have a physical nature to his game, but at the same time, like, he's also got this refined process with how he kind of rushes the quarterback, I guess. I like him here as this like Christian Wilkins replacement of kinds, where he's not going to be Christian Wilkins, but like it's your attempt at replacing him. So I like the pickup here for Miami. The Bills are going to go Xavier Worthy. We all know Xavier Worthy, really fast. He maybe needs to bulk up just a little bit, but as far as like his role, I think it's pretty clear, right? Like he is a speed threat. This is a guy that you want to put on crosser routes and just give Allen, who has one of the strongest arms in the NFL, give him that like true deep speed threat. Like I know they signed Curtis Samuel, but like he's not Xavier Worthy fast, especially since he's a bit older now. I don't remember how old he is, but either way, Xavier Worthy I think fits really well with the Bills offense here, and just kind of hopefully gives them that element that could finally hopefully get them over some type of hump that they've been stuck on. At 29, I have the Lions going Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Kool-Aid is not gone yet. And also, I know there's some people, if you're watching through the whole video, you're saying, where's Olu Fashanu? Where's Kool-Aid McKinstry? Remember, and especially Liatu. I know Latu's not been picked. I didn't forget about them. Remember, good players fall in the draft all the time. I have my reasonings for each one. I think Latu's neck is, again, it's predictions, right? Latu could go at 8. Who knows? But Latu's neck, I think, might scare teams away. And Fashanu, I don't think teams like that. He's just not a good run blocker. And then with Kool-Aid here, I think the first time I really thought of him realistically going was Tampa Bay. But then obviously I went with Patrick Paul instead. I thought about him here for Detroit, but I really do think that Rakestraw fits Detroit's defense a bit better. Just as far as like Kool-Aid can also absolutely play, that man, but also like they have a lot of like nickel versatility with some of their corners and stuff. That's what they did with Brian Branch last year. Is like he plays nickel, he plays corner, plays safety, a bit of both. I think Rakestraw fits that, but not so much like the safety. I think he can switch into that nickel position if you want. But as this kind of like man outside press corner, I think he fits that. But also like their deep. I can't remember if they run cover 2 or cover 3 more, but I like him also in that kind of like deep thirds zone area is where he plays really well. So Kool-Aid was definitely a thought here, but I just like Rakestraw more in terms of zone coverage. But if you wanted like a pure man corner, and maybe I'm wrong here because if the Lions just run man, then it'd probably be Kool-Aid here. But I like Rakestraw a bit more just because like he has that versatility. I would take Kool-Aid above him, but just again for the Lions fit here. At 30, I have the Ravens going Jordan Morgan. There's been some rumblings they really like him. I could see it. I could even see him going earlier, like at 20 to the Steelers or something. Jordan Morgan is a really athletic tackle, but I don't personally see much else to his game other than that. Like, I don't feel like we super often see these kind of tackles where they're genuinely just super athletic, but so unrefined in a lot of other areas in the game. He is not a horrific tackle. Like, he's not going to be a liability year one, but I definitely do think that there's going to be, spots where like he's probably going to let up a few pressures at least, to Lamar. Obviously it works really well because Lamar can escape the pocket really well. And that's where I think the fit really makes a lot more sense, because while he is this kind of developmental, unrefined guy, he's also someone that can get out and run and block for you very easily and very well. So for Lamar, I think that fits for obvious reasons. So I like him here to kind of replace Morgan Moses on the right tackle position. Nate Wiggins to the 49ers at 31. They need corner. They've got some guys like Lenoir, I think is how you say that, has his moments. Ambry Thomas was solid for a little bit. Jason Verrett was good until he went down. Unless he's not with them. I'm pretty sure he's with them, but I know he got hurt again last year. But either way, they need corner, and I like Nate Wiggins here for them. I think he's a really good fit. Obviously, he's a bit of a smaller guy, but when you do watch him, like, he still tries for sure to get in the ground game, which is always good. Like, if he didn't try at all, then he wouldn't be a first-round player for me. because that's kind of the thing with these with slot corners, right? Is it's kind of like how much of an impact do they make to the run game? And Wiggins does enough. He for sure puts an effort, and he does enough to be a first round pick for me. Mike Sainristil is more of a strict slot corner because I think he doesn't get in on the run game as much as I'd like, right? But I really considered him here for the 49ers. But I ultimately went with Wiggins because I do think while he would be a really good slot corner, there's also outside versatility for Wiggins. So I guess that's kind of why I ended up leaning with him. Whereas with Sanders still, like he's strictly a slot. But yeah, so I liked it here for them. I really considered going O-line here or edge rusher. Like they kind of low-key have some needs and stuff, despite the fact they were just in the Super Bowl. But I ended up going with Wiggins here. At 32, I had the Chiefs going with Amarius Mims. I'm a huge fan of Mims, but apparently the NFL is not. And that might be something that ends up being totally untrue. He could go way higher, and I think he should. But this feels like a Chiefs pick to me, where they get this kind of like, athletic, big tackle who's a winner, right? He's played for Georgia and played very successfully for them. He's not a raw player. Like, he's not someone that, like, he's had injury issues and stuff at Georgia, but not really, like he's not injury prone by any mean. And he's just kind of had issues getting on the field. But when he's been on the field, for a guy who's not had a lot of playing time, he's performed really, really well. But again, like I said, the NFL just doesn't seem to be high on him, and I don't know what it is. So again, maybe that's wrong, and some team ends up taking him way earlier. But this feels kind of like a Chiefs pick where they get this guy who's just like, he should have gone way higher than this. So I like him here for the Chiefs, playing that left tackle position. I mean, I guess he could play right tackle, but left tackle preferably. And then lastly, 33, finishing out our mock draft, we have the Carolina Panthers, who I do think goes receiver with A.D. Mitchell, who I didn't have going in the first round. And, I don't know. He could, right? He totally could. He could be the pick at 28 instead of Worthy for the Bills. But for Mitchell, I think, at least from what I saw on tape, I wonder if teams might potentially get scared away from him, because despite the fact that he has this really nice like size to him and he has this nice athletic ability, he's not as refined of a receiver, like a pure receiver, as you would hope. Actually, like he kind of has some finicky hands, and I didn't like how much he catches with his body. Like, there's a fair few times where he definitely was. It was difficult for him to adjust to catches unless he could purely catch it with his body. That's not to say he can't reach out for it, because if he learns to, like if he can actually finally start locating the ball and bringing it in, I mean, we're talking about a potentially really good receiver here for Carolina. But so, I mean, obviously it's worth the pick for them, right? Because you have a high upside here with them. But again, like I said, I think teams might get scared away from him because he's just not as refined of a receiver as you'd like. But he's still a good prospect, right? Like, these are all good prospects, of course, if they're going first round or whatever. But that is going to round out our final mock draft. And if you watched through the whole thing, thanks a lot. I know it was a little choppy at bits, but I'm kind of just, I just kind of go into this recording without scripts and stuff. I don't do scripts as much as I used to. But yeah, so thank you. Let me know down below, what picks you liked. What do you want your team to do? Try to remember this is predictive. This is not what I would do. So yeah, let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see all you guys probably after the draft in the next video. Bye-bye.